Yo, what is up guys? It's me, Zachary. Karl Anthony Towns is going to be traded, and the team that he's traded to will win the NBA championship. Or at least that is the conclusion that I was able to come to after this game. See, after the Indiana Pacers beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 122-115 behind Bojan Bogdanovic and his 37 points. And by the way, Bojan has been absolutely killing it for the past month for the Indiana Pacers, averaging 23 points per game in the month of February. So shout out to him for stepping up big time in the absence of Victor Oladipo. And it was, as I was saying, after the Pacers won this game against the Minnesota Timberwolves behind Bogdanovic's big game, despite Karl Anthony Towns having a big game of his own, scoring 23 points alone in the first quarter and finishing the game with 42 points and 17 rebounds. I took a minute to legitimately think about this Minnesota Timberwolves team and the fate of Karl Anthony Towns with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And after thinking about it, the conclusion that I came to is that Karl Anthony Towns is going to be traded, and the team that he gets traded to will win an NBA championship. Let me explain why. Over the years, the Minnesota Timberwolves have had this history of drafting some great big men. They drafted Kevin Garnett, Kevin Love, and now they have drafted Karl Anthony Towns as well. However, even though the Minnesota Timberwolves might have a good eye for picking up big men, unfortunately, the same thing can't be said for their ability to build a good team around those big men that they draft. They have failed time and time again to develop a team that can compete around the great star-level big men that they do draft through the NBA draft. And because of that inability to build a good team around these players, eventually it leads to the Minnesota Timberwolves having to trade away their good big men. They had to trade Kevin Garnett to the Boston Celtics, and they had to trade Kevin Love to the Cleveland Cavaliers just because they weren't able to compete with them themselves. And it doesn't take much to look at this Wolves team right now and see that they're clearly headed down the same path that they were when they had Kevin Garnett and they had Kevin Love. The future projections of the Minnesota Timberwolves have changed so much in just the past couple of years. Literally 2 years ago, before the Minnesota Timberwolves hired Tom Thibodeau and traded for Jimmy Butler, we were all proclaiming the Minnesota Timberwolves to be one of the teams of the future with Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. We all thought they were going to be destined for greatness. However, they then traded away all of their other assets for Jimmy Butler just for that not to work out, and now they're just left with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. And to make things worse, Andrew Wiggins over the years for some reason has gotten worse. He's regressed ever since the Wolves handed him that massive contract. And now the Wolves being stuck with just Towns and Wiggins and not having the pieces necessary to compete in the Western Conference, not even coming close to competing in the Western Conference, they're looking like they might become destined to walk that same path that they walked with Kevin Garnett and with Kevin Love. And if that's the path that the Wolves are going to be walking down, then once again, it's only a matter of time before they're going to have to trade Karl Anthony Towns, or he comes out and requests to be traded. As for the whole winning a championship thing, well, that's just because both Kevin Garnett and Kevin Love won a championship with the team they were traded to. So kind of seems fitting that the same thing would happen for Karl Anthony Towns. So James Harden just scored 58 points yesterday in the Rockets' 121-118 win over the Miami Heat, and I knew that this was coming. Over his last 2 games, Harden had went 1 of 21 from beyond the arc. And knowing that he was struggling so much over his last 2 games and still managed to score 28 and 38 points, you just knew that it was only a matter of time before he got a shot to fall again, and when he did, it will result in a game like this. Once again, 58 points for James Harden. He has been killing it so far this season, and he was 8 of 18 from 3 last night. Not exactly Steph Curry status. If Steph shot 18 threes, he probably would have made like 13 or 14, but still making 8s. Really good. I thought after losing to the Miami Heat on a Dwayne Wade buzzer beater the other day that the Golden State Warriors would have taken their frustration out on the Orlando Magic last night, but as it turns out, the Warriors just can't beat these Florida basketball teams, it seems, as not only did they lose to the Miami Heat, but they also lost to the Orlando Magic as well, 103-96. And this week that the Orlando Magic just had pretty much sums up the entire Orlando Magic's organization. It makes no sense. Okay, so the Orlando Magic played 4 games this week. They won 2 of those games and they lost 2 of those games. The 2 teams that the Magic beat were the Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors. However, the two teams that they lost to were the Chicago Bulls and the New York Knicks. I guess maybe you could say it's okay that they lost to Chicago since the Bulls have won like 4 of their past 5 games, but overall, the Magic just make absolutely no sense, even though they might make the playoffs this year, which just shows how terrible the bottom of the East is. The Orlando Magic, who have a record of like 29-34, are a serious threat to make the A seed. They are the A seed right now in the Eastern Conference. That's terrible. So the Philadelphia 76ers managed to beat the OKC Thunder. However, in this game, we didn't get to see the little rivalry between Joel Embiid and Russell Westbrook, as Joel Embiid was still out. But so was Paul George for the Thunder, so this kind of evened things out, I suppose, even though, you know, yeah. 108-104 the final score in this one though. Tobias Harris doing most of the heavy lifting on the offense for the Philadelphia 76ers with 32 points. With the Warriors losing their game against the Magic, if the Nuggets would have won this game, they would have finally reclaimed their #1 spot in the Western Conference. But unfortunately for the Nuggets, that didn't happen as they lost to the Utah Jazz 111-104. Donovan Mitchell scoring 24 points, while Kyle Korver was also huge off the bench, hitting 6 threes to score 22 points. And I still can't believe that this is the same Utah Jazz team that just lost their star player Gordon Hayward in free agency last season. I'll always wonder what would have happened if they were able to get Mitchell, but not only that, but to keep Gordon Hayward as well. I wonder how much better the Utah Jazz would have been, how much different the NBA would be. And lastly for the day, the Cleveland Cavaliers just got the 128-118 win over the New York Knicks. Kevin Love, Cedi Osman, Jordan Clarkson, and Colin Sexton each scoring at least 20 points. That's gonna do it for everything that we gotta talk about today though. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know this one was a little shorter, but there wasn't as much going on in the NBA, if I'm going to be honest. That being said, we're pretty much just waiting for the NBA playoffs to start around here. I can't wait till it starts. The rest of the regular season, it kind of needs to hurry up and speed up a bit because there isn't that much else to be said. We all know pretty much the teams that are going to make it. The only thing left to see is if the Los Angeles Lakers make the playoffs, which, if we're being real with ourselves, we all know that LeBron James is going to end up making the NBA playoffs. Come on now. Anyways, let me not turn this outro into a discussion on the Lakers. That's gonna do it for everything we gotta talk about today. Thank you once again for coming back. I'll see all of you right back here on Monday. So until then, hope you enjoy your weekend, but I'm out of here. Peace.